Good afternoon and welcome everybody. My name is Marilyn Shannon and this is the Breaking Free Show. And I am so happy to have you all here with me today. We have a wonderful show in store. We have my dear friend Debby Bruck. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing great. We're
Good.
breaking free.
We're breaking free. And Debby is the host of the Health In Show, which comes on right before the Breaking Free Show. And I asked Debby to be here today for many reasons. So I'm happy to have her here. And then Amnon, hello.
Hello. How's your week?
Good. And yours?
Just fine.
Good. And Amnon is our producer, and we're always happy to have him. But actually, he's happy to have us because we're in his space. Anyway, I appreciate everybody being with us today. And I know that your time is extremely valuable. And I honor the fact that you are here with us today, spending your time with us. And I appreciate it. And if you're watching this, and this is a recorded show, I feel the same way about you as I do anybody that's watching us live. So know that. I want to give you a special hello because we do put all of our shows up on YouTube. We have a channel there. And I want you to know that I'm glad that you found us. So all of my work and everything that we do, everything that I do, my mission is to help people connect, help everyone find their personal freedom, freedom as a society, freedom individually, families to free up, kids to be free, people to feel who they are and to be able to be who they are and express it in multiple ways. And the more we understand each other, the more that will happen. And I decided I heard a TED Talk, which was fabulous. I hope you all have the opportunity to listen to TED. It's fabulous shows. And I heard one about introverts and extroverts. And I was fascinated by it because it's something that, you kind of glosses over the subject sometimes. They're there. You don't talk about it that much, but it's something that's there. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. If we could really, but actually really understand each other. And the topic of introverts and extroverts, can you only imagine how differently we'll react to each other, but also at the same time, how we, even more importantly, how we feel about ourselves. And so I decided that this would be a great topic to expand today. And, I want you to feel very comfortable at any point in time to call us, chat with us, comment, ask a question, and as I've said many times, have an aha. Because together, our ahas get bigger and bigger, and we can grow them bigger and bigger. So please feel free to call anytime, 919-518-9773, or you can contact us on Skype at computers2, that's the number 2, K Voice. And so with that, I want to go over to Debby for a second, and I want to ask Debby about a personal experience she had, because we were kind of talking before the show started, and I said, no, hold that, don't share that yet. Let's bring it to the air so we all can experience it together. So, Debby, you were sharing about when you were younger and your acknowledgement of yourself.
Right. I think that each person has a view of themselves, of what they need, or the way that they respond to their environment, the situations that they're in, whether they are comfortable sitting in a room socializing, going out to dinner, in crowds, or, in an amusement park, different kinds of settings, or speaking in public is probably the number one fear that all people have, is speaking in public.
Talk to me about when you were younger.
I'm getting to that. Tell you the truth, speaking in public was one of my number one fears in life, taking exams, things like that, and showing my face and being acknowledged. So I would say that you can consider me a very, very shy person. And today, I would say I've overcome that shyness in one respect, the fact that I'm a public figure, but I'm still shy. I don't like all the attention, really. And so Amnon is laughing hysterically at me, but it's true. And people might blush when they get the attention on them. I was telling Marilyn that when I was a child going through grade school, fluttering my eyes. No. When I was in grade school, I would shrink. I would get behind my book. I would put my notebook up. I would get so that the teacher couldn't see me in case they might call on me, because I would be afraid, to speak out, to be seen, or to perhaps answer incorrectly, even if I knew the answer. Now you can't shut me up. It's really...
I'm trying. No, I'm not. Go ahead.
It's really, I am surprising myself that I have to actually tell myself, believe it or not, I have to tell myself, Debbie, be quiet. Because I do tell myself that in a lot of situations, because I want to be able to hear fully what other people are saying, but I just have so many questions about everything and about life that I want to ask them. So that's something of my personality qualities. And we're going to be talking a lot today about how you define yourself as a introvert or an extrovert.
And I think it's important for us to begin by having shared some of our personal experiences. And when I thought about doing this, I really thought about Debbie coming on, because I do see Debbie as being an introvert, and I talk about the introvert extrovert as being on a spectrum, because I think maybe there are people who come from one end to another, but I think we all do it at degrees. And I believe that I grew up being an extrovert and getting my energy from people. And there are certain things that you change through life, or you grow through life with, that changes you, and that expands you on that spectrum. But nonetheless, I get my energy from being around people. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't feel nauseous before I would get up to speak, because I did. And I was a public address major in college, so it was my yearning to do it, but my insecurities would get in the way. My fear would get in the way. But we cannot confuse that with who we truly are, in essence. I mean, we learn things from other people. We take on other people's fears. But nonetheless, I grew up being a scared extrovert. And yet...
A scared extrovert.
Scared extrovert. So, which is interesting.
You know what I think? What? I think in actuality, if you really say that, I feel that I would characterize the essence as truly what you were was an introvert who was what we in homeopathic terms, or maybe psychological terms, call compensation. We have compensation. So, for instance, if I'm afraid of heights, I'm going to go and climb that ladder. I'm going to go and climb that mountain, because I'm going to overcome my fear of those things. And in the same way, you're a quiet person, you keep to yourself, you like to recharge. These are things that we want to get to in the slides if we use them at all, is that it's the mode of energy that you behave in the world, with yourself, with others, with your environment. So that is, can I use the term Grant Bentley, who does facial analysis? So he actually says it's built into our DNA. It's built into our DNA how we're going to respond in all these situations. So our bone structure, our facial, the way our face is constructed, not the expression, but the construction of, do you have wide cheekbones? Do you have a long nose? And all of this is kind of telling of how we express ourselves in the world, either with turning inward or turning out.
Okay, so there's a lot to talk about. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because that's getting into the science, and we want to get to that too. But I want to clear the air of just in general terms of what it looks like and why it's important. We find ourselves in jobs we don't like. We find ourselves in a life we don't like. And there are reasons for that. And sometimes we've gone through stages in our lives where we look at these things and we're angry with ourselves. We're in jobs we don't like and we think we should fit in. We're in doing social things, and the society says everybody should get along and be, this or that, and not everybody should sit by a computer. But maybe maybe that's who you are. And for
an
children,
angry person?
No, not an angry person, but you're not comfortable doing the things that are who you are. You're in a job that you're in an extrovert job, but you're an introvert.
Okay,
You're
so
in
incompatible
it's
life
not, it's not who you are, and yet society says, if you're a salesperson, you need to really be out there. But that may not always be the case for everybody in being out there. So I want to examine these terms to see where we all fit in and how we fit in and how we allow ourselves to be who we are and respect who we are, plus how we allow and respect other people to be who they are, including our children. I mean, as a coach, I've had people come to me whose children are, they're quiet. They're more reserved, and they want them to play football. They want them to be in team sports. Well, maybe that kid doesn't feel comfortable being in team sports. They're much better off being with, a twosy rather than a team kind of thing. And twosy. So better one-on-one than they are
intimate relationships and forming close bonds.
Exactly. And so we want to take a look at all of these things and kind of get a handle on it. But I do want to read a quote by Jung, and it says that there is no such thing as a pure introvert or extrovert. Such a person would be in the lunatic asylum. So you don't make yourself be in one or the other. You have options. You have that spectrum. You have learning. You have growth. You have homeopathy. You have models, role models. We have all kinds of things, and we can use this to our advantage. And there is such a thing as called an ambivert. That is a combination of the introvert and the extrovert, and most people fit in there. So I don't want to put anybody in a box. I just want you to feel as though this is just an opening. And I also want to say that understanding human nature and understanding where we are is very important. That's why we want to spend time doing this. So we could go ahead and, let's put up that one of those first slides and see. Debby, okay, I wanted you to hear me on this.
Yeah.
I have all these great notes because I've been doing this for a while now. I invited Debby to come on and share from her perspective. And obviously, if you don't know it, Debby I consider to be the queen of the homeopaths. She's phenomenal. She knows tons about everything. And so she created slides. I have no slides, but last night Debby said, slides. And I'm thinking I would just walk in, so there's the difference between an introvert and an extrovert. I'm going to walk in and I'm going to go with my notes and, just kind of flow with it. Debby wanted the slides. So that's one of the differences between the introvert and extrovert is introverts don't like surprises. And that is something that you just respect in somebody. And so when I saw that, I go, aha, introvert, I'm going to respect that. So we're going to go and we're going to work from the slides.
So I'm going to respond to Marilyn.
Go ahead.
There's a book that says all of the personality types fall under either introvert or extrovert, and one basically could dominate the other. We all have within us, and that's where the ambivert terminology came from, to accommodate the actual truth. And the truth is we all have inward energy, outward energy, and spiraling energy. Energy that moves in a circular pattern. So what happens is each of us comes to the planet and we have one kind of energy that dominates more than the other. So we find ourselves either moving inward or moving outward or in a spiral. And that's where so that's why it's not good to put anybody in a box.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now, and
there we go.
And I love you, Marilyn.
What do you mean?
I lost my train of thought because you said that just because I prepared slides, I'm an introvert, but preparing...
I didn't say that. What? I didn't say just because. I said introverts don't like surprises.
Okay.
And so to come here to have... It's an indication of being an introvert, just like there are certain indications of being an extrovert, and yet not putting somebody in a box. It doesn't mean that everybody who wants a slide is an introvert, but it is when you know somebody and you see those things, you respect it. In other words, that's what it's about. It's about noticing these things and saying, this is something to be respected. It doesn't mean somebody's less than, somebody else is more than, somebody else is this, somebody else is that. It's just to be respected, and it doesn't make anybody wrong. It's the same thing with, a lot of people say introverts are shy. Well, they are shy to a degree, but the other thing about an introvert is they enjoy quiet. So there's always another side to something, and you just don't make anybody wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let's just go whipping through these slides a little bit, because I do like to have visuals. You don't have to look at me all the time. And I also like being prepared. And that's one of the things about me is if I'm going to speak in public, I want to know what I'm saying. And that's where the slides come in. So introvert and extrovert, everyone spends time both with introversion and extroversion. Each person has a dominant need for more or less of one or the other type of energy environment. And that important part is to recharge. So we are energy beings. We are electric beings. Everything in us is energy. And when we put it out, what is going to expend our energy? Is it going to be going in public? Is it going to be going in a social situation? Or is it going to be I'm expending all my energy because I'm all by myself and I can't stand it? And now I have to actually go into a public space with other people around me to recharge. I need the company to recharge. That would be an extrovert. You can go to the next slide and see what it says, which I'm not looking at. Okay, so the introvert, and these are just typical definitions. If you go to the dictionary, they attribute it to being shy, being reticent, and typically they say it's a self-centered person because they're always thinking about themselves all the time and their inner feelings, their inner emotions, how they're affected. They're so sensitive, and they can be very reserved and timid. Now, this is categorically just a generalization, okay? And because these are just terms that are used, and they're used by different people. The next one is about extroverts. Again, are you an outgoing person? Are you overtly expressive? Are you sociable and gregarious? You like to be in social situations? Unreserved. Do you get up on tables and dance? Are you genial and affable and very friendly? You make friends easily. And that's something that you said, Marilyn. A shy person might like one-on-one, and a gregarious extrovert might like a lot of, having a group of people. Go ahead.
Well, exactly. And then the extrovert's usually the life of the party, likes to make parties.
Likes to make parties. You're extrovert.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are characteristics that are normally pretty true to either one, but so okay, let's hit the next one then.
Oh, you want to keep going? Okay. An introvert is a shy person and may appear to be introverted due to, and these are the reasons. You want to look for the causation of what happened in their life that they became or they are responsive to stressors in life. So are they apprehensive, nervous, and have a lot of anxiety? So this could also be an extrovert, could also be shy, right?
Yeah.
We discussed that. So what happened in a person's life to kind of turn their energy inward? Were they reprimanded as a child, and then they felt that they could not speak out because they would be afraid that they might get the disapproval of the parents again, and they're only looking for the approval of the parents. The next slide is introvert and extrovert again, a person who is energized by being alone and whose energy is drained by being around other people. And that is me. I have to tell you, I really love being alone. An extrovert is a person who is energized by being around other people, socializing. Now, I can say that when I go out and I'm there, I have a fabulous, fabulous time. And I don't want to go home. And I might be the last person to leave the party because I'm still talking. And so I have a grand time, but when I get home, I'm out. That's it. It's wasted me.
And I wonder, when you listen to that, so in extrovert land.
Extrovert land.
Do you go home and like want to keep going? You know, are you turned on? Are you excited? Are you just full of energy and have to let it go?
What about you?
Well, I'm thinking about that. I think that sometimes when I'm wound up, like when I come to the show, I mean, I have a hard time, not a hard time, but I'm energized.
There you go.
So I'm energized. So it's where when I leave the show, you know, I'm like, whew, I want to do something else. Whereas,
yeah, but that's the show.
Well, it's the same as a party. It's a show.
Okay.
It's no different. It's being on stage. There's a difference, you know. Being on stage.
So there's a drama part in there. Being on stage means what?
Well,
being the life of the party, being the center of attention, or what does it mean being on stage?
I don't think it necessarily means being the center of attention. I think it means sometimes, for me, it means creating, and it's not drama, because, well, it depends on how you're looking at drama, but I think I like to create a flow at a party. Like if I'm somewhere, I'll work the sidelines.
What's the sidelines?
Well, I'll help people connect and then walk away.
The wallflowers?
Sometimes.
Yeah. I'm the wallflower.
I think it's work. It's noticing all of what's going on in the room.
Yeah.
And it's noticing, where there might be, like in a networking event, for instance. Let's say, for instance. Just noticing where there might be a lull and maybe somebody needs a little something. Notice being the hostess. It's just working all the angles, and that and it's exhausting. And yet at the same time, it's exciting. Okay. So then you do fill up with the energy.
So what part is exhausting and what part
I think the whole thing can be, takes a lot of energy to do that.
So you see how complicated this issue can be.
It's very complicated.
Well, because I think and I'm going to move you into a leadership role, and that's one of the things you talk about a lot. When you're at a party and you're hosting and you're not a guest, you're working the party, right? You're making sure everybody's comfortable. And so therefore you are expending energy working. But if you just go to a party just for fun and just to be there and enjoy yourself and let go, what happens then?
Depends. I mean, it depends on what's going on at the party. But as a leader, you can jump into any role. Leaders can jump into a role of leading, or they can step into a role of following. That's what a leader does. A leader can move from one role to another, consciously being aware what they're doing.
The question is it an extrovert or an introvert? Either one, leadership.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Introverts can be leaders and extroverts can be leaders.
And introverts can be actors and actresses on introverts or extroverts.
That's right. It's either way.
Right. So
they just do it. You just might do it differently.
Right.
It's how you approach something.
This is what we began the show with, finding a career that's appropriate for you, that you're comfortable with, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, and how you can cope with that role with the energy that was God-given to you, which is your natural nature to be withdraw within or be expressive and always be the life of the party. So what role you are able to fulfill competently and still care for yourself with your personal needs of being an introvert or an extrovert. Mm-hmm. Did you follow that? I kind of just spewed it out.
Yeah, I think so. But so let's back up for just a second. So we've gone through different terminologies. And I just want to remind everybody again, we're not putting anybody in a box. We're just shining a light on certain things, certain characteristics, certain traits, certain awarenesses that say, oh yeah, I do that, and that's okay. Or I don't do that, but I'd like to do that, and that's okay. Or my partner is this way, I get frustrated by that, but that's what they do to recharge. That's the point of that's a great deal the point of what we're talking about here. So just take it in as we go, and I would suggest at this point you might want to start taking some notes, because we're going to talk about some other things that you might want to write down. So
really?
Go for it.
Oh, you
have something? I'm done.
Yeah.
Go.
Is there such a thing as, now that I understand it, as an extrovert that just doesn't know how to get there?
Yes.
Doesn't that get to being an extrovert?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, when you deny who you are, you know.
Are you an extrovert? You're saying?
No, I'm thinking every time I'm planning a cookout, which is a get together of friends, I have a fight with Kathy because she does not want to have. No, I don't want to have company.
Yeah.
10 minutes into, and I always go ahead and do it, and 10 minutes into it, she's all over the place, and when it's over, so how was it? Oh, it was great.
Right. Meaning?
I don't know. I mean, here it is, somebody,
she?
I mean, we literally can have a fight and not talk to each other for 2-3 hours before it starts.
Right.
And then, wow, bam.
Right.
Turn.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying about myself. I have a very hard time getting there, going into a crowd, going to a party, going to an event, because I love my alone space. I love to be quiet and just think my own thoughts. But when I'm there, I have a blast. Mm-hmm. And so for her too. The question is, how is she after? And
great.
She's great. So, you know, we're a combination of people.
And we are. And what do you do? So let's talk about it for a second, because I'm sure we're all faced with similar situations. So what do you do normally? What do you do in the situation when it first starts and you're getting in before the argument? What can you do?
I already know. I mean, come on, after that.
Right. So
almost
what do you
40
do?
years,
What do you say?
You just said, we're going to have it.
Okay.
I mean, I said, you always feel like this, and then at the end it's great. Well, no, well, it's fine. So I go by myself, and I call and I do everything, and I always tell her, I don't want you to say anything. I'm going to do everything. Mm-hmm. And then you watch her after people are here, and she's like, bam, you know.
So because it's interesting, I mean, when you're faced with that kind of thing, what do you engage in the argument, or do you don't engage in the argument?
It's not a matter of engaging. I know it's going to be there. I mean, I already know it's going to be there, and I know why, so I don't give it any.
Okay, so your initial question was, can you be an introvert?
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of energy for her, just like what Debbie was saying. It takes a lot of energy to be on, so to speak, and we avoid that because there's a price to pay afterwards. So even though, and you know, when we Zoom, then the coming down can be harder. Do you know what I mean? There's more of a drain. So, you know. I don't know what you can do, but her awareness of that Zoom and of the energy and of it being okay, like just acknowledging to her that you know it takes a lot from her, and that takes a lot of energy from her to prepare, to think about. And the other thing is, I think, is that creative people have a lot of have a lot of introversion within them, and there's all these things that creative people think about, all the possibilities of the party, you know, this having to be done, we're having to serve this, we have to go get this, all of the list that has to be prepared for the party. Preparation is exhausting.
Preparation, making slides, making the dip.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
I do the whole thing.
That's what you have
exhausting.
to. I was thinking about that. So you tell her, just sit back and wait for the people to arrive, because I'm handling this aspect of it, and you don't have to worry.
Yep.
And I think by now she will get it, and it won't have to be a fight.
Yes, and if your partner acknowledges, or if you acknowledge that in somebody and respect that, and let them know you understand, and thank them for the work that they're getting ready to do or be a part of, I think it smooths out the thing. And if you don't, get caught in the argument and trying to change somebody, and even you'll love it, you're going to love it, you're going to love this, you always have a good time, or I understand that it takes a lot. And you just go from there.
Tell her to go shopping first, and then when she gets home.
No, absolutely not.
Shopping, school.
Okay, let's see what the other slide looks like. And
the next slide is just the original terminology for introvert and extrovert comes from C.G. Jung, who used these terms to explain different attitudes people use to direct their energy. And as it says, these words have really different meanings in psychology and the way that they're used every day. And the next slide is really about which are you? So,
okay, I want to hold off on that.
Okay.
I want to hold off on that, and I want to read a list of certain things that I want you to think about first. Okay. I prefer one-on-one conversations to group activities. Think about these and see and write yes or no. True or false, I mean. I often prefer to express myself in writing. True or false? I enjoy solitude. True or false? I seem to care about wealth, fame, and status less than my peers.
You
don't like it.
You have notes.
I have tons of notes.
You're prepared.
I am prepared. I am prepared. Why'd you think I wasn't?
No, you're not just walking in blind.
No, I was never walking in blind. People tell me that I'm a good listener. True or false? I'm not a big risk taker. True or false? I enjoy work that allows me to dive in with few interruptions. True or false? I like to celebrate birthdays on a small scale with only one or two close friends or family members. True or false? People describe me as soft-spoken or mellow. True or false? I prefer not to show or discuss my work with others until it's finished. True or false? I need to think before I speak. True or false? And I often let calls go through to my voicemail. True or false? I think these are great.
If calls go through
to my voicemail.
As opposed to picking it up?
As opposed to picking it up right away. True or false?
I don't know if that's what
well, it does. Remember,
okay.
It's not this. There's not a shoe that fits everybody. This is a gauge.
And is this the Myers-Briggs?
No, I don't think so.
Myers-Briggs uses this questioning and things like that to determine whether you are introvert or extrovert, and kind of box you into a category.
Okay, so let's say this. So if you answered the majority of the questions, I'm not saying out of 12 questions you answered 7 one way or the other. It's the majority, okay? Mm-hmm. If you answer the majority of these questions true, then you're more of an introvert. If you answer the questions pretty evenly, give or take, then you are leaning more towards being an ambivert. And if you've answered the majority of the questions false, then you're tending to be more of an extrovert. Mm-hmm. So this is just to kind of give you a ballpark of where you fit in, or where your partner may fit in, or just how you go about looking at things. So let's see. Well, Susiani on the chat says, I answered 3 false, I've answered 3 false, so am an introvert. Yeah, well, if you answer the majority true, then you are an introvert. If you've answered 3 false, then I would say you're more of an introvert than you are of an extrovert. The other thing we want to talk about before we go into some of Debbie's homeopathic remedies, which I think are really, really cool, is to think about, and I did a whole facilitation on this a couple of weeks ago, and there were several people in the room, so it's great to get your information from real life experiences and other people, just like we're doing here and looking at the chat. And remember, if you're listening to this and you're not on our chat, you might want to take part and just sign your name on the bottom right and enter into the chat. There's a lot of conversation going on in there. It's very interesting. Also, if you have anything to add, please feel free to call 919-518-9773 or computers, plural, 2K voice. We talked about how you, and I'm sure Debbie and I have talked about this, but how you grow in and out of whatever it is. And of course, we're not talking about it as a box, but your comfort zones. And Debbie asked a question I don't think we were on the air yet. You said, can somebody, what was the question? Could somebody change where they are? And there was a woman in the room who had always thought of herself as an introvert and changed into being an extrovert. Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting thing was, and again, I'm not stereotyping, So don't listen to me doing that. But she still was extremely soft-spoken. She seemed to have a gentleness about her. So her energy was definitely, maybe still the energy of an introvert. But she had taken on things of being an extrovert that she wanted to do. And as you grow, I think for me in particular, I loved having that ambivert category, because I think as you grow and you get wiser and you're more knowledgeable, more experiences, an introvert's going to grow more into an extrovert. An extrovert might grow more into an introvert. And at that point, you don't know who you are.
Well, you know what? That sounds to me very much like finding a balance.
Yes, exactly.
It sounds to me like the maturation and the development of the individual is tempered as they age, that they learn to accommodate and adapt to many different life situations, whether alone or in a group, and how to be well with themselves in all of those situations. And so that's why these terms are just labels. And really, in homeopathic speak, we want to individualize you as a unique, I call snowflake or angel. Each of you are a special human being with your own personal qualities and your own mission in the world that you want to fulfill and your soul energy wants to fulfill. So whether you have a body and emotions and mental that say, okay, I need to behave in such and such a way, to adapt to my body or,
or situation,
right?
That you have the ability to do that.
And also I want to make another note. Marilyn, you gave us 12 cute little yes and no questions, which you can tick off and you can answer and you can say, okay, this is my result and my conclusion. But when you have a homeopathic consultation, you never ask a yes or no question, because that only boxes a person in, and you get only that answer, yes or no. But if you are in a real true homeopathic consultation, then your full body expression, your gestures, your facial expression, your movements, how you are in life, this is the observation of the homeopath to really understand who and what kind of energy you have. Are you crossing your arms and closing in? Is this your expression? Or are you like, I'm out here, I'm really an extrovert, yeah, look at me, and this makes a real big difference as to understanding the other person and being able to reflect and mirror that person so they can see who they are. So was that helpful at all?
Yeah. And
can't you take extroverticum every day?
I would like to take extroverticum so that I could get there, and that's exactly what my husband would say.
So getting back to what Debbie was saying, yeah, if you were sitting with me coaching, I would never take just one answer. And you should, and if you don't take one answer from yourself, that's a good thing too, because there isn't just one answer. However, for the purpose here in kind of taking a look at certain things, we want to just give you a framework. And some people haven't got a clue where they are. So it's important. Now, I want to...
so that's wonderful to have a health coach who can mirror, who can answer, who could reflect, and help you, guide you into understanding your needs.
So we're going to get into some of the homeopathic remedies in just a minute, but I want to go through certain other things first, and then we're going to zoom right into the homeopathic remedies.
Okay.
So how to care for an introvert. Now remember, that's your partner, your friend, your sister, your brother, your child, as well as yourself. And I want to particularly keep this in mind for kids so that you can recognize who they are and help them be who they are as opposed to who society thinks they should be. Mm-hmm. So number one, respect their need for privacy. Now remember, This is a generalization, but they can be pretty true to an introvert. Never embarrass them in public. Let them observe first in a new situation. Give them time to think. Don't demand instant answers. So one of the things I do as an extrovert is I can come with the questions pretty quick. And let's say my husband, who's more of an introvert, might need more processing time. Just respect that in somebody else. That everybody's processing time is going to vary. And just be conscious of that and kind of be like a fly on the wall and give people a chance to process. Don't interrupt them. Introverts very often, and this might be a strong characteristic of an introvert that you know, that if you interrupt them, they will lose their trend of thought. And so just if you know that the energy of the person is more of an introvert, be conscious of not interrupting them. Give them advance notice on expected changes, because they don't always like surprises. So be cognizant of that when you're working with somebody.
Have you been talking a lot about introverts just now? So what do extroverts need?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
These are all introverts.
Okay, that's what I was
No,
checking.
that's what it is.
Okay.
This is care for an introvert.
Okay.
Give them 15-minute warnings to finish whatever they are doing, because sometimes time to an introvert kind of gets away with them. So just, again, no right, no wrong, no anger, no blame, just awareness. Don't reprimand them privately. Well, I would say don't reprimand them, but I would say talk to them privately if there's an issue. Hold it in until you can talk to them privately. Teach them new skills privately. So if you have a suggestion for somebody, you want to teach them something, do it privately. Don't embarrass somebody, but don't embarrass anybody. Enable them to find one best friend. Again, introverts love one-on-one connection as opposed to having to be in a whole big room. It's nice to connect when you're a party. We were talking about parties. If you notice that somebody's an introvert, they're not working the room, it's nice to bring them and connect them with somebody that they could connect with. Don't push them to make lots of friends and expect their introversion. Don't try to make them into an extrovert. Okay? Now we're going to go through and talk about how to care for an extrovert. Okay? Remember, the other one was for an introvert.
The care and feeding.
The care and feeding.
Of your
Absolutely. Absolutely. So respect their independence. They could be an extrovert can be all over the place. Just respect the fact that they can be jumping around and that they might be all over the place and, in a room, they're going to work the room, they're going to be all over the place. Don't try to tie them down. Compliment them in the company of others. They love that. So that's the difference between an introvert and an extrovert, possibly.
They love praise.
They love praise, whereas an introvert may blush, but an extrovert's going to maybe blush but still love it anyway.
But the introvert may love the praise too.
Yeah. So remember, none of these are 100% perfectly in the box. But you will notice that these the characteristics of each one of these there's going to be a lot of truth in this. Accept and encourage their enthusiasm. They're enthusiastic because that's their energy. Accept it and praise it because they like praise.
You ain't going to change it.
Nope.
I can tell you that.
Allow them to explore and talk things out. Like we said many times, and introverts can be more quiet. They're thoughtful. They want to think things through. They won't speak before they know something or before they think they know something. Whereas an extrovert is going to speak it out. They're going to figure it out by speaking it out. So keep that in mind.
That's that outward energy. Did you see what you did? They're throwing it out. They're getting it out. That's that outward energy.
Absolutely. Exactly. Thoroughly surprise them. They like surprises. They love the right? They love a surprise party. Make me one. Number 6, understand when they are busy and understand when they're busy. And there's a difference between the introvert being busy and the extrovert being busy. Introverts busy, they're kind of like in a tunnel sometimes. They don't want to be interrupted because they'll lose their trend of thought and they get very absorbed. An extrovert's going to be a little different than that. They're going to be busy and because they're going to have a lot of things to do. They're going to be involved in a lot of things, and they'll be upset when you interrupt them because they don't want to be interrupted. They just want to work, but their energy is different. The introvert energy is going to be different in that regard than an extrovert.
I'm not sure I followed that part, but okay.
Which part don't you understand? Which part?
I understood that the introvert likes to be in their quiet zone, be in the shell, focus, and really be with themselves to understand, learn, and do their thing. But what is the energy of the extrovert? That are they not in that same mode of action? What mode of action is going to be?
I don't think an extrovert is so concerned with losing their trend of thought. They just want to do the work. They're just having fun, and they want to do the work. They're not concerned. If you're interrupting, you're taking away from something they enjoy, and it's not because they're going to lose their trend of thought. It's because they want to do it.
You know what? I just thought of an idea.
What's that?
That is, the extrovert might actually gain more energy through the interactions of those around them because they can pull in that information. They can pull in whatever's new and coming in because they're gaining it. They're gathering that energy to feed them even more, to boost their energy level. Whereas the introvert is got to be in a closed space so that because they can't take any more information in. It's too much for them.
Right. An introvert is going to be have sensitivity and get on sensitivity overload. Like a lot of music or a lot of stuff going on around them at one time. Whereas an extrovert probably is not going to feed into as many of those things at one time. They might connect with something, but not all of it at one time. And if they do it, it won't overwhelm them.
Michelle says extroverts are more activated. They are more easily act in situations where the introvert needs to pull themselves out of being in that shell.
Right.
And you know what? If you have an introvert and an extrovert as companions, as partners, as friends, they help each other because you pull her into the party, you pull Kathy into the party, Amnon, and she'll take you out of the party sometimes. Yeah. She'll take you into a nice, quiet walk. Yep. And so, we need each other in order to really be complete and whole. Yep. That we do need both sides, and we might need the energy of the other person to help us get there.
Absolutely. And that's part of understanding each other and not looking at it in a negative way, but looking at it like, wow, how can I, and I wrote a blog about this.
Like Laurel and Hardy.
Well, exactly. I wrote a blog about this on the BreakingFreeShow.com page, and the blog is about this. Yeah. It's about the gifts and noticing these attributes, these characteristics as gifts, which is important. Let the extroverts dive into whatever it is they're doing, offer them options when they get confused, and also they can get overwhelmed too because they get into a lot of things. Make physical and verbal gestures of affection. They like a hug. They like to be acknowledged. We talked about that. And let them shine. And a lot of times that if you're an introvert and you have an extrovert partner or a business partner or anything, very often it's the extrovert that's out in the forefront, and it's the introvert that's in the background helping to support the extrovert being out there, just like the extrovert is helping the introvert stay in the background and thrive. So let's go.
You want to do some stuff?
Now we're going to go into some of the homeopathic remedies that Debby can suggest for wherever you are, wherever you see you are, and whatever characteristics or things that you want to take on. So let's say you were like a Debby who got shy. But I used to vomit too before I would do something. But you were shy. You don't want to speak out in public, but you do. What do you do in that case? So I'm going to let Debby take it away.
Okay, so we're on slide. We're going to gloss over which are you? So we kind of did that with your yes and no questions. We're going to go to the next one, which are you? So we're up to next. How can this affect you? If certain environments can stress you out, then these can be clues to homeopathic remedies that may suit you and help you deal with stress. And we all have stressors in our lives, emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. And these are the things that move us to be either introverted or extroverted as our mode of action. Okay? So then we're going to go to the next slide. It says introverts. In the homeopathic repertory, which is a list of rubrics of all of the materia medica, the remedies that tell us what to use to help a person heal, there are over 200 remedies related to just the word introversion. And I picked out here the list of remedies that were the top ones. Argentum nitricum, that's silver nitrate. Aurum muriaticum natrum. Cocculus is a plant. Ignatia is a plant. Natrium muriaticum is a mineral. Phosphoric acid, that's in your fizzy drinks. That's also a mineral. Pulsatilla is a flower, a wind flower that moves and is very moody. And stannum, that's a metal. And go to the next slide. So if you don't mind going through a couple of these. So introvert, the first one at the top of the list was Argentum nitricum, which is that it's really for performers, people who are singers and get sore throats. And see if you can find that in here.
Well, let's pick out. I think we should pick out some of the things that are.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll have time to go through everything.
I just wanted to show that one picture.
Okay, which one?
Okay, so this
for?
is the Argentum nitricum right here. If you can see this, here's a picture in a book of argentite. Okay, and that person has clenched hands. They're really, really nervous. They've got to get on stage. You see, they're drama. They're going to perform. They're going to speak in public, or they're going to have an exam. They have to perform, and that's performance anxiety.
Okay, hold on a second. So if you're, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, this would be phenomenal for you to listen to this particular remedy and this particular reason, because we have to put ourselves out there as solopreneurs, very much so. We have to fulfill lots of different categories. We have to be, sometimes we have to be like 10 things at once. This particular remedy would be great for you in that situation.
Yes, and if you're looking at the slide, if Amnon comes back, it runs the gamut. So not only performance anxiety, like getting on stage, being a speaker, putting on a lecture, putting on a show, singing on stage in public, which is specifically the throat communication. This is your chakra for that, being able to speak, but also personal life, sexual performance. So you might not make it there because you're not going to live up to, what you're thinking in your mind you have to do.
Okay, hold on a minute, because that's too good to let go of. So sexual performance. So where do you place that in the introvert-extrovert thing?
Where do you place
I mean,
it?
you were talking about sexual. How does that fit in as an extrovert or an introvert?
Sexual performance is very intimate relationship.
Okay.
And there are many homeopathic remedies for your reproductive and sexual function.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to get to another one that's really highly sexual.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that if we move along.
Okay, but
yeah.
How do you narrow down when you're looking at sexuality, intimacy, based on introvert and extrovert?
I don't think there's any answer to that question.
Okay, so this particular
covers both.
Covers both?
It covers everything.
Okay,
covers
let's
both.
talk. Well, it covers both, but is there, performance anxiety? Somebody who
has performance anxiety is going to have a problem potentially in different spheres of their life. They might not have a problem. They're great in bed, or they can't speak out in public in front of a lot of people. So they're good intimately with one-on-one, but then when they're in front of a whole crowd, they collapse. So
here, aggressive. So listen to
or reverse or vice versa.
Okay, so introverts may not be aggressive.
Introverts
sexually aggressive. So this may be, when we talk about these intimacy and remedies for sexuality, that might be something that an introvert might consider looking into if they want to be a little bit more sexually active or sexually aggressive?
If they want to. If you want to call it that, I would call it confidence in yourself that you can perform, that you trust your body, it will do what it needs to do at the time that it needs to do it. I consider it more of self-confidence rather than being aggressive. You don't need to be aggressive, but you need to know that I trust myself or I trust the other person and I'm good together. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Then, I could say one last thing is for Argentite, not only is it the throat area, but it is really, really good for diarrhea, so irritable bowel syndrome. And you think about performance, they have a lot of problem, irritable bowel, okay? The next slide, and he's not really showing that, but when you do, and you can download them from homeopathyworldcommunity.com. And
we'll have them in the show notes.
The next one is called Cocculus indicus. And this remedy I really know fairly well for people who are nursing other people, like Florence Nightingale. Somebody who who has a sandwich person who has all of their kids to take care of and their parent who is not well. And they have to work both ends of the spectrum, and so they're really working themselves. They're just caring for others, and they're staying up late, and they're worrying about others. So as a child, if you look at this, it says they're a bookworm, they're sensitive, they're romantic girls, and this is a more of an introvert person who needs their sensitivity. They don't want to be ruffled too much. It's also fabulous if you get car sick. This is another thing. Don't rock the boat. Don't get in that ship and all those waves. That's going to mess them up, and they're going to be that nauseous vomiting thing. They're going to have vertigo. They're going to have dizziness. So you can see bad effects from loss of sleep because they're mentally excited. They're thinking about caring for the others. But in their terms of irritability, you can see that they cannot bear contradiction. They're easily offended, and they can be angry from little trifles. So this is a plant remedy. Plant remedies are very sensitive people. Okay, you want to go to the next one? The next one is Ignatia Mara. And this one is the #1 grief remedy for acute grief, for immediate grief, for a loss of somebody in the family, for I lost my dolly when you're a little kid, or boy, I lost my book, or somebody took my transformer, or whatever they have today, my mobile phone, unfortunately. So these people have a lot of contradiction in their life. They can be mild and gentle and yielding, but also they can show themselves extrovertedly as very hysterical, very, very loud and hysterical, or they change. They're very moody. But in order for their energy to get back together, they want to be alone. They have bad effects from anger, I said grief. Disappointed love is like #1.
For who is this now?
For anybody who has a disappointed love, they have broken-hearted. All of the actresses, the singers today, who's the one that sings all, they're broken-hearted, and all of those things. He left me, he took another girl. This is disappointed love, and that is Ignatia. They're brooding over this, easily offended.
So this isn't. So you're saying this is an introvert, broken-hearted.
Yes, they need
easily offended,
but they need a lot of love and care and
right.
tender.
So when you talk about the easily offended part,
that could be both introvert or extrovert.
Yeah, because introverts, extroverts love the attention.
Yeah, but they could be offended easily.
So yeah, absolutely. That's what happens if they love attention and they don't get it. They're easily offended,
or you say something wrong to them. Okay, and I said a little something about kids. If they're reprimanded or scolded, they're very sensitive. Again, this is a plant. And one of the keynotes I have here is cannot bear tobacco, which means that they might have a problem in the olden days when things were not smoke-free. They would have had a problem going into social settings where there was a lot of smoke because it would make them sick. Okay, the next one for introvert is Nature Muriaticum. And this one is worse from consolation. which means definitely introverted. Do not go wrap your arms around them, give them a hug, something's wrong with them, because they don't want it. They say, leave me alone. I'm running up to my room. I'm slamming the door. I'm going to cry in the pillow, and I'm going to hold my little, whatever it is, my toy stuffed bear, and my binky. And that person is not, you would not think that they would be an extrovert.
Yeah.
But in many situations, they're laughing loudly, overly loudly in situations. So you might think they're an extrovert, but internally, they're really an introvert. And there's some other things in the slides. I'm going to pass that. The next one on introvert. One of the things, if you look in the repertory, I wouldn't just look up introvert. I would look up aspects of a person who might have a problem in a social setting. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I could look up is fear in a crowd. People who are afraid to go into crowds. And look at, there's 79 remedies, and I just posted a couple of them there. So that would be...
So for somebody out there who's not accustomed to understanding what homeopathy is, I want to just take a second, and I know we're over our time, but let me just say this so you understand this. And Debbie can explain this much far greater than I can. But homeopathy works from the inside out. So it's not one cure for everyone. It's what's going on inside of your system, inside of your bloodstream, inside of your cells that makes a difference. And it can be different for everybody. So that's why early on Debbie said it's not, you don't answer a question just true or false, because that's too simple. You've got to find out what it is, who you are. And by the answers that you give, because it could be different than my answers, is going to tell somebody like Debbie, who's a homeopath, give them information on how to help you, how to treat whatever is going on for you. So the things that Debbie's referring to, by asking you the questions, you can find out those slightest little details of how you walk into a room. Because that's going to, everybody walks into a room different. And how you walk into a room or how I walk into a room is going to tell Debbie what to treat us with. So that's why this is so cool.
And the truth of it is, you might have written on your true-false question one thing or another, but if you just hear the person tell a life story, you will get the answer really more honestly. You will then... You will, now you're going to tell me a life story about how I behave in that situation. You're going to get the real answer, not just a yes or no, but because they might not know, or they might be covering up something, right?
Right, because we only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. So these questions are great because it brings out what we might not even realize that we should bring out.
Okay, we're going to move over to the extrovert. In the homeopathic remedy, there are only 50 remedies for extroversion. I thought that was kind of strange because the other one had 200, over 200.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure whether it is just because we don't have documentation to that and people didn't write it down.
Why would they write down the introverts?
Maybe because it just was so prevalent. So, like, let's say we have, what I'm thinking is, we have thousands and thousands of plant remedies, but we only have a smaller hundreds of animal remedies. I would say animal remedies
are more of an extrovert.
Are more of, they're working with the energy of survival, life, aggression, those kinds of things. So,
she wanted a surprise.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have these small group of remedies. Do we want a guest? We want a guest coming in to the show?
Mm-hmm.
We have a surprise for the extrovert.
Go ahead.
We have Argent Knight, which is the same one as I started off with. Argent Knight was an introvert, but Argent Knight is also the extrovert. So the person who is the performer, who is out there pushing themselves on stage and has no problem in their being. Okay? Then we have Bovista, which is the puffball, which is a mushroom. We have Metarinum, which comes from diseased matter from the gonorrheal taint. And then we have phosphorus, which is like what makes light in the firefly. And then we have sulfur, which is a mineral, and tuberculinum, which is also an energy from the tuberculous bacillinum, a bacteria. The other thing that I put on, do we want to invite somebody here? No. And so the other thing is talkative. We would look up, we don't look up talkative in the repertory, we look up loquacious. So what you asked me earlier, why are there over 200 introvert and only 50 extrovert? But if I looked at, instead of the label extrovert, and I looked at the question talkative, 258 remedies are talkative. So I would characterize the extrovert as more in that aspect.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, depends on the situation.
Are you okay?
Oh yeah, it depends on the situation. I think that there's a time and a place for everybody to shine. So it's possible that an introvert is going to be much more talkative, especially when they're comfortable in the space that they're in. If they're not in the space they're in, they may not, again, track it back. They may not be able to react as fast, be as talkative, whereas the extrovert may be able to find anything to say.
Right.
And a way to say it.
Yes.
But an introvert is going to be more comfortable in a certain situation, and then you cannot them up. But in an environment where they're not so comfortable, they will be like just mum's the word.
Because they have to find within themselves what they want to say.
Right.
You said they think about what they say first.
Right.
Before they express it.
Right. And then they sometimes get caught in all the different things they could say. And then by the time they're ready to say something, we're on to something else.
You
and
guys
then they don't
fast.
get the time to say it. So
yeah. Okay. So here we're going to run through a couple of these remedies. Argentum nitricum again. Digestive complaints from nervous excitement, or they love sweets. They love sweets, but they don't absorb, digest, or assimilate. Extrovert, argentinite, the next previous. That's it. Okay, and then we have the stage fright. So they might have the irritable bowel before getting on stage. They also have claustrophobia, which I found very interesting, meaning that closed spaces makes them uncomfortable. So if they're in the backstage, or if they're I don't know whether that would go for crowds, but I know closed spaces. So, this is a fabulous remedy for if you're not good on airplanes. That is a closed space that you cannot escape, you cannot get out of. Okay.
So why would an extrovert?
Yeah.
Why is closed spaces so such a characteristic for a when things close in? Why is that for an extrovert?
Probably because this is hypothetical. I don't like to do that, but I mean, they want to escape route. They want air. They want open. It depends on the individual.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, it's not so good to always be locked up in a place that you think you can't get out of.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Okay, and the other thing about argentinite, it's the eye drops that the babies are given when they're born immediately. They get silver nitrate. That's what this is.
Okay, extroverts like their independence. They like their freedom.
Yeah.
To feel closed in would be an awful thing for an extrovert because you can't get out.
But an introvert would love it.
Yeah.
To be snuggled up in their blanket.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So this is an eye remedy, a really good eye remedy. And as you said, they like the fresh air and cool surroundings. They're worse for warmth, overwork, and hot weather. Next one, Bovista. Bovista is that puffball I said. Have you ever gone out in the woods and stepped on or touched one of these puffballs and it opens up and all the spores blow out into the wind? Well, this is for people who have this chronic urticaria, itching, oozing, eczema, rash, warts, all this kind of skin stuff going on, and they're extroverts, believe it or not. So it seems kind of incongruous to me, because if you have bad skin and you're in public, you're going to feel embarrassed. And that would make you want to be like introvert and not show your face. And yet these people are considered to be extroverts. They are out there. They're in public. And so it's very interesting to me. What these remedies can do is help these people with their physical, emotional, mental ailments. And so you can look at it. They're stammering, stuttering, old maids with palpitations. They drop things from awkwardness. These are all the kind of negative aspects of this plant attribute, but I'm sure there are positive things that these people can puff themselves up, puffball, and really show their stuff and be really good, So these are the things. The next remedy I was mentioning is Medorrhinum, and you talk about aggression. This one would be one for that. It's for a gonorrhea infection that has been suppressed or maltreated. And that does not mean that you individually need to have that infection, but it could come down what we call miasmatically, heredity, DNA-wise, through your genetic line. So someone in your family history may have come in contact with this infection, and you think about who is going to have a gonorrheal infection, a very sexually active person. Go ahead.
No, I think that, I think we can go on and on and on, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time that's listening. Okay. So I think there's much more.
Much more.
And so so Debbie, why don't, first of all, tell everybody where and how they can find you for more information.
Okay, you can find me on homeopathyworldcommunity.com. That's the website, or on Facebook, Homeopathy World Community, or via email, homeopathyworldcommunity@gmail.com. And that's where you can find me. I'm doing all these shows. I'm educating and hoping that people will understand that they can become self-empowered and fulfill their mission in life through the use of energy medicines as opposed to suppression using drugs. And that is my message. Okay.
And you can find me here, or you can click above my head and find me and ask questions, or if anything I can do to help you. We're going to have these show notes on the Breaking Free show website and MarilynShannon.com. So any of these, and we'll have the PowerPoint as well that Debbie created, and we'll have all of this on the Breaking Free show page. Keep in touch. If you have any questions, we'd love to support you in that. If you have recognized something in yourself or somebody else today and you've had an aha moment, that would be great. And if you want any more information on this on how homeopathy could help you, support you in any of this, I suggest you get in touch with Debbie as far as that's concerned, because there's a world of information that is just endless. So I want to thank Debbie.
And I want to thank you.
Well,
I want to thank you for having me on with you, and I hope I wasn't too boring.
No, how could you be boring? No, this is not boring. This is interesting, and it's just another way of us working together, coming together, understanding each other greater, and ultimately being able to live and love each other. So that's the idea.
And I encourage people to seek out a health coach, because that will also help understand who you are and your needs. Marilyn's on Women's Power Networking. When I pick up the phone, she's everything. Women's Power Networking, personal coach, and re-enchant planet Earth.
So thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Amnon. And thank you, everybody out there, for being such a wonderful audience today. I'm sorry we went over, but we will see you next week. We love you, and talk to you soon. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by ThatBidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.